Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Females made you just to trick me, trick me, trick me, trick me. 'Cause baby girl, you are so easy, baby. The only reason that I can do tonight is 'cause I know you were invited. The only reason that this dress is skin tight is 'cause I thought that you would like it. I'm only come for this.
On this episode of Jessica Javens Talk, we have a guest that's coming back because she is totally irresistible. Seriously, she's a psychologist who helps people to understand mental health like I've never seen before. She makes it easy. And it was tough to choose a second theme for this, but I picked and choose, and I think that everybody is going to be thrilled that we're going to be talking about this. It is the difference between BPD and bipolar. What does that mean? So let's start breaking it down. Welcome, Dr. Jennifer Bellingrodt. Thank you so much for coming back on season 2.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. Just love chatting with you guys. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you. Thank you. So, as you are an amazing communicator, I want to be like you when I grow up. I want you to start breaking it down a little bit for us who doesn't know much difference between BPD and bipolar, or maybe you just want to single them out first, simply what they mean, and then we can talk about the difference, because I was a little bit confused. They're similar in so many ways. So what's your input?
So, the first big difference is that borderline personality disorder is a personality disorder. Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder. So that they're in two totally separate categories. That's the first thing. In layman's terms, the way most of us understand it, I would say the biggest difference has to do with the duration of the mood swings. So both conditions have mood swings, sort of these ups and downs. With BPD, borderline personality disorder, I'll say BPD, those mood changes and mood fluctuations, what we call mood lability, can occur within seconds, minutes, hours, multiple times in the same day, or it can be from day to day. With bipolar disorder, which is a mood disorder, a depressive disorder, you're looking at two different states, hence the bipolar. So mania and depression. Mm-hmm. And mania can take two different forms, which we can talk about if you want, but those mood changes will persist generally for days, weeks, months. So it's a matter of duration of the mood swings. People see mood swings and they instantly think bipolar because a lot of people aren't familiar with BPD.
Right.
And so they're like, she's bipolar. And I'm like, okay, well, is her mood changing within minutes or hours, or does she stay in one mood for several days and then switch to another mood? So that's usually the first question, is about duration.
That's very, very interesting and enlightening. Now, I would like to back up just a little bit to find out, where do these come from? Like, if you me being completely not knowing where this comes from, I would say, okay, so possibly bipolar is a chemical thing in the brain that's causing this, and personality disorder is probably genetic or environmental as they were growing up. Can you break that down, like where they come from?
That's the gist of it. I mean, you pretty much nailed it. So in my TikTok videos, I talk about 4 causes of BPD. And it can be genetics. It can be environment. Some people believe in chemical alterations, brain damage. I mean, there's a number of things. Generally speaking, I see BPD, the personality disorder, coming from the environment. So the second most common cause I would say that I see is genetics. So just like we can inherit eye color, hair color, skin tone, we can also inherit our personality, the way we see information and process information. So I speak of personality disorders as information processing disorders. And we can go into that later, maybe a separate discussion, but that's the difference, is the Bipolar, the way we understand it is that there's more of a chemical imbalance that's triggered that changes the mood. Now, there are some people coming out arguing it is not a chemical imbalance, blah, blah, blah. There's something going on in the brain. So whether that's a chemical imbalance or some sort of brain damage or issues, it's a brain issue. And we also know that if medications are helping it, it's because they're regulating brain chemistry. So that's where the whole brain chemistry idea comes from.
Okay, that's clearing it up. Now, I know that a lot of things are discovered by doing just a simple blood test. This is not one of them. So how does the process of diagnosis work?
So the way that I do it is with a clinical interview. So there are psychological tests that can be given that will help kind of ferret out, is it anxiety, depression? Is it a mood disorder? Is it a personality disorder? I don't do the testing anymore. That's many moons ago that I've done that. But I do the clinical interview. So I'm going to sit down with my patient and walk through all of these different areas of their life, their habits and patterns, their history with a deep dive into family of origin. You probably remember how I feel about doing that deep dive and getting into it, right?
Yes.
And I'm going to do that extensive interview process. And then we're also going to do a part of the interview that's geared toward looking at specific symptoms. And that's where I can ferret out, is it more of a bipolar condition or a borderline personality disorder?
Have you ever experienced a situation where a patient was diagnosed with one and then maybe later on, as maybe therapy or a treatment plan was put in place, that diagnosis changed?
Yeah, a lot. So I always say if I had a nickel for every time that BPD was misdiagnosed as bipolar, I could probably retire. And a lot of it is just they get these diagnoses from people either who are unaware of personality disorders, in depth, or they get it, or the provider is afraid to tell them that they have a personality disorder because they see it as a life sentence, which it absolutely is not.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah.
That happens?
Yeah, a lot of providers are scared of BPD. And it's my specialty. I love it. They are some of my favorite people. So it's all a matter of perspective, but they feel overwhelmed or they don't want to be the bearer of bad news, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that happens. I think a lot of times they come with a diagnosis from a psychiatrist. So psychiatrist does meds, psychologists do therapy, and the psychiatrist, outside of the initial intake appointment, which should be longer, the follow-up appointments are 15 to 20 minutes, whereas I'm spending 45 to 55 minutes with someone. And so I get more of a detailed history on them and can really dig into patterns and family of origin and all of that to help make a more informed diagnosis. So some people are ignorant, some people are afraid. And then sometimes they don't ask the right questions to get the patient to articulate what they really need to know.
I was just
So a
talking
lot of
about
reasons that
asking the right questions. Absolutely. That's crucial. What would you say is the impact in our society of misdiagnosis?
Oh gosh, that's sad to think about.
I know. I was just wondering your perspective, because I know, different countries, different areas of the country or whatever in the world that might be completely different. I know that we have a lot of access to this type of medical treatment in this country, but it's not the case everywhere else. So in your perspective alone, what would you say as of today? Because this is also constantly changing, right?
Yeah, so I would say the most devastating impact is the impact on the person who is struggling and the emotional upheaval that they're going through when, let's say, somebody diagnoses them with bipolar disorder, they render a treatment plan and they don't get better. And then because they're barking up the wrong tree because this person actually has BPD. And so then they feel hopeless. They feel helpless. They feel very dismayed. They want to give up. They feel worthless. They feel like, they're a bad person, whatever, all these thoughts and feelings that it generates. I'd say that's a big impact. I'd say there's also a financial impact because, again, if we're not helping this person in the right ways, then they are maybe it's interfering with their ability to go to work and make a living, or it's increasing their medical bills because they're engaging in these impulsive behaviors and the treatment plan isn't helping that. And so then they end up in the hospital or whatever. So there's a financial impact as well. I would say it could be potentially pretty extensive.
Yeah. It is a very big concern. Now, for somebody who feels like they're not where they need to be in life, they feel like there's something wrong because they have constant struggles, right? I think that's one of the things that maybe makes somebody want to look for somebody, a mental health medical doctor, is when they start feeling that I should be happy a little more than I'm sad, or something like that. What would be the first signs that you recommend that a person should notice for them to look for a medical practitioner as you?
So in order to make any mental health diagnosis, a person doesn't just need to have symptoms. They need to have symptoms that interfere with their ability to function in one or more ways. So interpersonally, socially, occupationally, some sort of impact. There has to be an impact. So if you find that you're having a hard time in relationships, or you've had a lot of failed relationships, or you're having a hard time getting out of bed, you're having a hard time going to work, or your performance at work is suffering, that's an indication that you probably could benefit from some help. Now, that being said, of course, I'm a little biased, but I think everyone can benefit from help. No one's perfect. No one has it all figured out. Right? Even stellar, ridiculously paid athletes have coaches. So for us to think that we can just go through this world on a planet of over 8 billion people and we don't ever need to talk to anybody, I find that silly.
I totally agree with you. Now, when should a person look for a psychiatrist versus a psychologist? And I've done both. I experiment with both. But if a person is coming for the first time seeking help, what would you think would be the right thing? With a psychiatrist, just so you know, I always felt that 15, 20 minutes is not enough for them to give me medication. Like, you barely just said hello and you're, giving me medication, subscribing medication. So I always felt not at ease. However, with a psychologist, I'm spending that time. I'm really letting it out. I'm really going through the questions, through the motions and the techniques. And I feel that, okay, now you're more capable of understanding where I'm coming from, maybe a little bit about my patterns, my past, maybe triggers, maybe chemistry, all of these different things that are affecting me. And maybe you can tell me, you know what, it would be good that you also go to a psychiatrist. How do you see that?
So I was just talking about someone with this earlier, with someone earlier today. She's had a couple of providers tell her that she should consider medication and she's resistant. And so I said, we're just getting started, but I always tell people that I recommend doing therapy first. I'm a huge fan of Better Living Through Modern Chemistry. There are medications that I take. I will take them for the rest of my life. No questions. However, I prefer to do all the natural and therapeutic things I can before I go to medication. So, I want people to really dig into their present functioning and their history and try to make some things make sense. If they end up with still, no matter what, they have these persistent symptoms every day and it's interfering with their ability to work or play or love, then we really strongly consider medication. And the thing about it is that, just because you go in for an evaluation for medication doesn't mean you're leaving there with a prescription. And just because you get a prescription doesn't mean you ever have to take it. Like, that's a very personal decision, right? So it's knowledge is potential power. So we want to get all the knowledge and all the data points we can to make an informed decision.
I think you nailed it right there. Knowledge is power. So the more knowledge you have, the better it is. I love that. So thank you for that insight.
Yeah.
Now, I'm thinking about teenagers and kids right now in my mind. I have 4 teenagers.
Oh my gosh.
2 boys and 2 girls. So my heart goes out to all mothers in the world who might be watching this, and also thinking, like, when should you start caring for your child in that manner? And let me tell you why. When they were preteens, I'm thinking, I don't want anybody to manipulate their minds. I need to let them grow. This is one of the things that I thought. As they are in their mid-late teens, maybe that's when they should do therapy. Maybe that's going to help them. But then I'm thinking, maybe not. Maybe it depends on which person that you actually have treating your child. What is your perspective and experience? I know you have over 2 decades of experience. You've written so many articles, books. You're out there in every social media platform. You're making a huge move, which I appreciate. And one of the best things that I've ever seen and read that I love and I tell everybody is one of your latest books, which is Fix Your Freaking Marriage, which I love. So now I'm coming to you and asking you about the kids.
Yeah. So thank you for your kind words. You're so sweet. So again, biased psychologist, I started talking to our kids about their mental and emotional health from day one, as soon as they were verbal, and could, talk about what's going on. So I don't work with kids really anymore, but back when I did, what I found was a lot of kids struggled to articulate what emotion they're dealing with. And so I had these charts and color sheets and magnets, and they could pick a face that expressed how they were feeling. So that's one thing you can do, is just expose your children to these tools to help them evaluate what's going on. The other thing you can do is help them put a name to it. So if you see your kid is really angry because you took their toy away because it's time for dinner, or, whatever, you give a voice to it. So I can see that you're super upset right now, and I get it. You connect with them. I get it. I would be upset too. I know you were having so much fun. We have to take a break though, because we're going to eat dinner, and then it's time for bath and bed and all the things. So why don't we put your toy over here, and then it'll be ready for you tomorrow when you get home from school or whatever. So just helping them label and saying and normalizing their reaction. It makes sense that you're upset right now. I'm not going to shame you for it. I'm not going to tell you don't cry. There's nothing to cry about. Like that's not helpful. Yeah. And then one strategy that I really love, and I do this with adults too, is because emotions can be overwhelming for anyone, right? So I tell them, if you're having a hard time figuring out what's going on for you, choose from these 4 things: mad, sad, glad, afraid. Mad, sad, glad, afraid. Just start there. And pick one of the 4, and then recognize that if it's mad, that's a secondary emotion, and you need to figure out what lies beneath it. And then that's a whole other sort of discussion.
Wow.
Yeah. Mad, sad, glad, afraid.
Very powerful. I feel like that really helps the person to understand where it's coming from and their why, and not just that moment, because sometimes we're just going with the emotions. We're not thinking about them. We don't realize where they started. We don't know where they're coming from. They're just coming, and we're dealing with them with who knows how. Mm-hmm. And of course, having teenagers, obviously, I experiment and I see that happening a lot of times. And it's not easy, especially when you're thinking about now they're trying to become adults, but at the same time, they're still children, and their brain is still being developed. But at the same time, they're testing their boundaries in a new way now because they're having to be adults and make decisions. So they put their environment, the people close to them, to the test. And they're at the same time having this emotional roller coaster going on, right?
Mhm.
So for me, for instance, how can I, as a parent, know what is normal for a teenager to experience and when should they actually get therapy? Although I agree with you, everybody would benefit from it. I agree.
Yeah,
But sometimes, depending on the situation, circumstances somebody is right now, maybe you're between jobs and you don't have health insurance, let's say. Okay. That's just one hypothesis. So we cannot do therapy for this year until I get a new job and I go through the 90 days, time frame until I have coverage. What could help parents during that time? And now, of course, you gave me very beautiful, clear examples of how to deal with a child. Now, I can't use that as with a teenager. So with a teenager, what would you suggest for a parent? I know this is a packed question. It's a lot. And I'm just telling you, I have 4, like a multiplication, but what could you tell somebody who has teenagers like this, how to deal with all of that situation and how to get the help that they need? And again, especially after the pandemic, doctor, it's the mental health with the kids. Everything has shifted and just changed drastically. I would never allow my kids to be on electronics until pandemic. After that, I couldn't control it anymore. I only engage with them with physical things, mental things, always. I was a very conscious parent. But after the pandemic came, they had to be homeschooled now. They were on their laptop all the time. And now they need a phone because they need to talk to their teacher. And I had to still work, So I can't control everything. And having 4, how I'm going to monitor 4 computers, cameras all over the house, and 4, it's a lot. So what is your suggestion?
Well, so the first part of the question about, when should we get them help or when do you recommend or whatnot, I think that's really a question for them. So if they're coming to you and you see that they're struggling, they have to tell you. If they're not telling you and you're not reading them and gleaning that, then, there's not much you can do. You do the best you can at the time with what you have. So I think the best thing to do is to just ask them. Like, if you can see they're struggling, hey, can we talk about this? Do you want to talk about this? Hey, why don't we go get a coffee or an ice cream, or let's go grab lunch, just you and me, and we'll talk about this. If they don't want to talk to you, which is not uncommon for teenagers, especially boys, when it's mom or dad, a lot of times, but boys, women speak a lot more words than men. So boys are a little harder to get information out of. But you can just ask, like, if you don't want to talk to me, would you like to talk to somebody else? Would it be helpful? If they don't want to do that, you can recommend resources. You can ask them if they want to journal. You can send them links for books or go take them to the library if they're willing to go, or order them some books that you think are helpful, get recommendations online. If it's the kind of thing, the other part where if they don't have insurance, so therapy is not an option, then definitely tap into free and low cost resources online. Especially with AI now and Chat GPT, you can go in as a parent and, type a little bit about what your kid is going through and what might be helpful outside of therapy. And it'll give you a whole bunch of ideas. So just avail yourself of free and low cost resources if therapy is not an option for a time.
That's wonderful. You gave a big, wonderful list of ways that the parents can feel that they are doing everything that they can to help their children, no matter what conditions they're in. So that's awesome. Depending on where you are in the country too, I've heard that there are some clinics who do have doctors available, who, depending on their income status at that point, if you file in for something, they might be able to give it for free for minors, which is a good thing for you to check into as well, your county, your city. So it's very important. I wanted to know now, because you're always into so much wonderful things, what are you bubbling right now? And what is next for you? What is your goal? Where are you headed? I can't wait to hear.
Um, well, a lot of different things. So the first book was on marriage. The second book was on perimenopause. The third book, which I'm getting ready to publish, God willing, before year's end, is called The Betrayal Breakthrough: Transforming Pain into Power. So whatever betrayal you have had, however someone has let you down or abandoned you or disappointed you or whatever, this book talks you through the process of grieving that and moving forward, making sure you don't stay a victim. It came about because I had another professional betrayal, and I got on the treadmill and I was just typing on my laptop. I was like, I've just got to get this out. And then before I know it, I had 6,000 words. So I'm like, okay, we're going to make this a book. So that's where that one came from. And hopefully I can get that published here very soon. And then the fourth book will be on overcoming self-limiting beliefs. It's called Get On With Your Freaking Life.
I love it.
And then the other thing that I have working, I've got my online training platform, so I'm always trying to add content to that. I have my own podcast, so I try to, get on there when I can. The other big thing that I have going on is I'm putting together a women's summit in my area in the Phoenix West Valley, where we are going to talk all about boundaries and what they are, why we need them, how to set them without guilt. And I'm trying to put together a summit for that. So that's the next big thing on the agenda.
You need to keep me in the loop. I am serious.
I will.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing.
Yeah,
This last the book about betrayal gave me goosebumps because I know how common that is. And if you haven't experienced it yet, you might very likely experience it sometime in your life. It is going to happen because people make mistakes, and you're bound to have relationships, and it's going to happen one way or the other. And it is very important for you to understand how to deal with it. It's not the end of the game,
Right.
So thank you so much for creating all this amazing tools that help us all be empowered. And the fact that you're going to do something with women right now, it touched my heart. I love empowering women, and I think that we're still creating space for that, and we deserve it. There's so many things that I found out just this year that is still happening, and that we need to create the space for that. And it is women who are courageous enough to create that space, such as you, that enables other women to say, hey, I can do this. I don't have to stay here. I can move on. I can move forward. I can move up. So I really, really appreciate everything that you're doing. And I just want to encourage you to keep doing it because we all need it.
Awesome. Yes. I love it.
Yes, I know. I can tell. It comes out in everything that you do. And that's what's amazing. So tell us the name of your podcast and where we can reach these courses, which are so easy and affordable. I love that you make that so accessible for almost anybody. It's cheaper than probably buying a fast food meal. And you can actually get yourself into that process of growing and becoming your better self. So tell us how they can reach you.
So the podcast is called The Psych with a Mic. It's on all the podcast platforms. I'm on Instagram under the same name. On TikTok, it's Shrink Think with Dr. Jen, and that same thing on YouTube. And then the training platform is called the psychoeducationacademy.com. And you can find a link for that in my bios on the social media profiles, or in my signature block that's on the bottom of the podcast. So the psychoeducationacademy.com. Courses starting at like $7. Grief, boundaries, overcoming negative thoughts, conquering self-limiting beliefs. I just added a sleep course with a separate sleep meditation course. You name it, it's there. The Psychoeducation Academy.
That's amazing.
Thanks.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. If you are watching us right now, you need to check out all of her platforms. And every day is a little drip of gold into your life that empowers you to make better decisions, to feel better, and create the life that you will love. Make sure you're following her. You're clicking the like button here. You're subscribing to this podcast, and as well as Dr. Jennifer Bellingrot's podcast. Thank you so much for coming in the show today. I am so happy that you're here. Like I said, I can't stop talking about you, and I want to make sure that everybody knows and can access all of the gold nuggets that you have to share. I appreciate you very much, and I cannot wait for us to connect again. Sounds
My
good?
pleasure.
Sounds
Yes, thank you for having me.
good. Thank you so much. This show is produced by the I Am Beast Network and Andre the Beast Creighton. And our sponsors are Forever Living, the aloe juice that transformed my wellness, and also Purium, which is the ultimate life transformation with superfoods. And also the wine bar in Fort Lauderdale called Through the Vine. This is Jessica Javens, and this is Jessica Javens Talk.
Baby, tell me you like me. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Females made you just to string me, string me, string me.